Hey there, gang. We're going to do something a little bit different this time out. In this video, I am going to share with you my wish list for 2022. These are the 22 comic books that I most want to add to my own personal collection over the coming year. Been a lot of videos like this in the last few weeks, but I can guarantee you this, because you may even have made such a list of your own, but there's not one thing on my list that's on yours. What? What does he mean by that? Well, have no fear, gentle viewer. All will be explained. So, if you like comic books, stick around. We're going to have some fun. Hey there, Bubby. Welcome to Shanghalla. My name is Duke, and this is a wish list episode, although I am going to put it under the pull list playlist because, well, I'm only going to do one of these types of videos a year, I should think. Once is enough. Most of these videos that are floating around the YouTube are like top 10s or top 12s, but you know, I'm OG geek. I don't do anything geek-wise unless I can do it to excess. So 22 for 22 just seemed to make all the sense in the world to me. So it's gonna be a bit of a haul this video. So you might want to grab a tasty beverage, put your feet up, sit back, and enjoy as we go over this list. And well, we'll get right to it. I'll just, do the usual beg. Please do like, share, subscribe, comment away, do all the groovy things. And, well, actually, before we get to it, I probably should explain why is my list so different? Well, those of you who have been longtime viewers of this channel probably already know this, but even though I work for a company that buys and sells comic books, I myself am not really an investor. I'm more of a true collector. I don't buy comic books with the intent of turning around and selling them. I buy them not for their monetary value, but for their intrinsic value, their entertainment value. I want the comic books to have, to hold, to read, to enjoy. And so literally most of the books on this list could probably be found in a dollar box. Because the thing that gives me a chub, if you'll pardon the crude commentary, the thing that gives me a chub really is not how much money I can make off a comic book, but completing a run. Rather, it's a 30 or 40 issue series, and I need just that one more book to complete it, or a long run of 300 or 400 issues, and I need just that one book in the middle to fill it out so it completes that run. That's what I enjoy. And so, yeah, there's nothing really on this list that's, going to be like a tip to you to, invest in this book, you'll make big money. But I can say that because I buy things for their reading value, to enjoy them, I think everything that's on this list represents something that you too might enjoy. Maybe you've heard of the series, you don't really know much about it. Maybe just seeing it on my list will encourage you to go out and buy those books, give them a read, and most of them will be pretty affordable. And if you do see one of the books on this list somewhere in a dollar box, by golly, let me know. Reach out to me, duke@shanghalla.com. Maybe we can do a deal. So let's get right to it. These are in alphabetical order, and we're going to start right here with Action Comics number 456. This friggin' thing. This is something you may want even if you don't collect Superman or Action Comics, just for this silly-ass cover. This, as you can tell, this came out right about the Jaws craze in the mid-70s, and I think the editors were like, well, the kids like sharks. Let's have Superman fight a shark. Which shouldn't be really a problem for the Man of Steel. I mean, unless that shark is invulnerable, can fly, has laser eyes and kryptonite teeth, I think that look of shock and surprise on Superman's face is probably a little overblown. Although, this is such a weird cover because it's like, is he looking at the shark or is he looking at those buns of steel? I imagine Superman saying, hey, Steve Rogers, suck it. That's America's ass. This has a few other things to recommend it as well. By the way, as you can see here on the screen, this came out in November 27th, 1975, a cover date of February 1976, 25 cents, $1.25 in modern money. And that is, by the way, the last 25-cent issue. This would go up to 30 cents with the next issue. But of the two stories, there's Jaws of the Killer Shark, 13 pages by Cary Bates, Kurt Swan, and Tex Blaisdell. And also there's a Green Arrow and Black Canary backup, Bail Out the Nutty Kid, 5 pages by Elliot S. Maggin, and then newcomer Mike Grell. Both of these stories are a little bit neat. The Superman story, in addition to Superman fighting a shark, it also features, it's either the second or third appearance of Captain Strong. And if you're not familiar, Captain Strong was it was DC Comics' a riff on Popeye. I swear to God, that's a true story. Look it up. Captain Strong. He made about 5 appearances from the mid 70s to the early 80s, and then again more recently, around 2018 or so, he's made another 5 or so appearances, mostly in Harley Quinn. The Green Arrow story, though, is neat. Green Arrow and Black Canary. Let's not be patriarchal here. That features some telethon host being pegged for murder, and GA and BC have to go in and save him. But the character is a clear parody of Jerry Lewis, which is interesting because this book came out only maybe 4 or 5 years, 6 years after DC stopped publishing its own Jerry Lewis comic book. So this story had been a few years earlier. It could have been a crossover. So anyway, this is on my list. It's in the guide at about $7 in 9.4, near mint 9.4. And for the purposes of this video, I am using the comicbookrealm.com price guide. On eBay, however, the best condition copy that I saw, looking back as far as one can look, which is about 3 months on completed sales, a 9.0 sold for $18.50. But for me, because I am a cheapskate, I'm going to see if I can get that for under $8 in 8.0 or better. So that's what I'm going to try and do this coming year. I definitely want to add this to my own personal collection, but I don't want to pay a lot for it. So we will see. We will see how well I do. And the reason that I want that particular book is because it will complete a run for me from Action Comics number 438 to 755. So 438 came out May 30th, 1974, and 755 May 5th, 1999. So if I get that book I'm missing, that'll give me a consecutive run of 308 issues spanning 25 years. And to me, that's pretty cool. I will have, once I get that 456, I will have every issue of Action Comics for a span of 25 years. That, feel the chub. All right. Now, completing another run is the next 4 books on my list. I'm looking to complete the Adventure Comics run of the Legion of Superheroes, which ran from issue 300 to 380. Most of you may know this. And, of course, that would give me a run of 80 issues spanning about almost 7 years. But the thing about this is that although I am a hardcore Legion fan, these books, they've been on my want list forever because, I have the archive series, I have the reprints, I've already read these stories in these issues I'm looking for. There's 4 books that I need to complete this run, and I just haven't really been that hot to do it in recent years. I think maybe it was like 20 years ago I was down to like the last 10, and I've just kind of been picking them away here and there, just kind of a desultory. If I get a lot with one of them in it, that's great. But I finally decided that this year, the last 4, I am going to make an effort to get to complete that run. And so the first one in the batch, Adventure Comics number 317, and that came out December 26, 1963, 12 cents or $1.08 in modern money. And this particular issue, it had a Superboy reprint. At this time, the Superboy stories were all reprints of earlier stories. The Legion story, though, The Menace of Dream Girl, that is the first appearance of Dream Girl. It's also the first mention of the Time Trapper, the first appearance of the Iron Curtain of Time, which would become a big thing in Legion books. And in this issue, because Dream Girl, really, she's a one-off character. She just shows up. She's a member for one issue. She's really only there as a plot device to help change Lightning Lass's powers. And we've talked about Lightning Lass and Lightning Lad in recent unboxings. Lightning Lad had been killed. Lightning Lass replaced him. He was revived. And then they had 2 characters with the exact same powers. So in this issue, a Dream Girl uses her Naltorian science to change Lightning Lass's powers from hurling lightning, makes her Light Lass, where she can nullify gravity. It's funny how just a little play with words can change a character's entire superpower. And so, she would be Light Lass for the next, 30 years or so. So that was a pretty big deal. And then Dream Girl went away at the end of this story because she could not control her precognitive powers. But she does come back later and joins the Legion, as most of you, even casual Legion fans, know that. So anyway, the guide value on this is $190 in 9.4. The most recent eBay sale I've seen was actually $278 for a 7.0. And when I say the most recent, I mean over the last 3 months. That was the highest sale that I saw, or the highest graded copy, I should say. But I'm going to see if I can get this around 6.0 for under 25 bucks. Yeah, I'm cheaping out. But I think if I keep a careful watch on the eBay auctions and things like that, I might be able to score this book around 6.0 for 25 bucks. And a 6.0 is plenty fine for me, for my own collection. I really, for me, they're just two grades, good enough and not good enough. All right, the next one is Adventure Comics 319, and this one came out February 27th, 1964. And the story in this one is the Legion's Suicide Squad. So this is the first mention of a Suicide Squad in DC Comics. That's cool. This is a story where there's this citadel on this barren planet, and it's armed with weapons the Legion discovers. And so they go to take it out because it could be a danger to passing spaceships. And they make like 3 runs at this thing, and they can't break into it. And finally, the substitute Legion comes along, and they break into it. And it's just a couple of old duffers, and they're like, yeah, we're in here because we just want to be left alone. We want you to just go away. And so the resolution of the story is that the Legion goes, well, okay, we will. So it's really a kind of a dumb little story. It is not the finest tale in the Legion oeuvre, but it is a book I don't have. Like the other one, it does book for $190 and 9.4. The best graded copy I have seen recently on eBay is a 6.5 that went for $61. This one I'm going to try and get for 20 bucks in around a 6.0. So that's my goal there. Next book is Adventure Comics number 330, and this came out on January 28th, 1965. And this is a story, The Secret of the Mystery Legionnaire. This features the first, well, kind of only appearance of Dynamo Boy, who was a space pirate who joined the Legion to infiltrate it from within. Of course, we've talked on unboxings about this trope from the Legion, a lot of one of us is a traitor stories. And so he joins the Legion and then begins manipulating the rules to get all of the other members expelled. And then once he's down, this is actually a 2-part story, by the way, which is kind of rare for this day. But once he gets the Legion down to just himself, he starts holding tryouts for people that he can manipulate. And that's what happens in the next issue, 331, which I do already have. This one's a little less, $150.94 according to the guides. 6.0, $167. That's a good sale. The guide on these books we've looked at so far has run a little under what's actually happening on eBay, which is kind of weird because usually the eBay prices come in much under guide. Anyway, on this book, I'm looking to get a 6.0 copy if I can find one for around $15. That's what I'm going to try and do. And then finally, the last book that I need in the adventure run, this is another weird story. This one, it came out April 29th, 1965, and the story is The War Between Krypton and Earth by Edmund Hamilton, art by John Fort. And in this one, the Legion discovers, I can't remember exactly what it is they're doing. It's been a while since I've actually read this. Like I said, I have this in reprints and other forms. But as I recall, the Legion's doing something, and they find buried in the ground something that indicates that Atlantis once had a war with Krypton. And so they go back in time, and the Legion ends up half of them fighting on one side, half of them fighting on the other. And at the end of the day, they make peace, of course. Oh, and Superboy falls in love with a girl whose initials are LL, obviously, because, that was the thing then. But it turns out that Starboy, with his mass induction powers, with his power to make things super heavy, actually is responsible for the sinking of Atlantis. And yes, that is a kind of a key aspect, a key plot point, if you will, that was never, ever, ever referenced again. Not anywhere in any DC book. So it's just goofy. This one guides for $135 in near mint 9.4. The best price I saw on eBay, or again, the highest graded copy, was a 7.0, which sold for $131.50. And I'm going to try and get it for under 12 bucks, around 6.0. So those are the 4 Legion books that I am looking for from the Adventure Comics run. And then there's one more. You may know that Adventure Comics came back around 2008, 9, 10. It was a little 3-year run there. It ran 12 issues and then reverted to legacy numbering and ran to, I think, issue 529. And as happened with the Adventure Comics run, the Legion initially appeared as backup stories in this run and ended up just taking over the title from Superboy, although in this case it was the Con-El black t-shirt Superboy. So anyway, this story is playing hooky. I don't know much about it. Paul Levitz was writing the Legion at this point. He had come back after he had retired as a DC publisher. The end of the series, which features the Legion Academy, ended up being pretty good. But right around here, it's a book I'm only looking to get because it's the Legion and because it's something I don't have. And I don't have it because right around 2009 or so, at the start of the Great Recession, we ran into some financial issues. And there was a period of about 3 years that I did not buy a single comic book. Just couldn't afford it. Had to cut it out. Once things kind of came back to normal a little bit, I did start buying comics again and went back and bought as back issues some of the things that I had missed. Got most of this run out of the dollar boxes, but this one issue I am still missing, and I should be able to find it in the dollar box. Interestingly, this guide's for $4, and you can see there the cover price was $3.99, and with inflation, that's equivalent to $5.09 today in 2021 dollars. And so this book obviously hasn't even kept pace with inflation. So I am definitely going to find it, if I can find it, in a dollar box. Best sale I saw on eBay at 9.2 for $2.08. So someone was kicking themselves they even bothered to put that up. But yeah, I put here, $4 or less in 9.0 or above, but I'll probably hold out to see it in a dollar box somewhere. But the problem is just finding the damn thing because, well, as you may know, books from the last 15, 20 years, the print runs were so small that it's easier to find books from the Silver Age and the Bronze Age than it is books from the, with increasing rarity, from the Copper, Chrome, Diamond Age, and now the Zinc Age. I mean, that issue of Adventure Comics probably only had a print run of about 20,000 copies nationwide. So trying to find it, it's going to be a hard thing to track down. This next book, Aerosmith number 6, this was published by the Wildstorm imprint of DC Comics when Wildstorm went over from Image to DC. Came out March 31st, 2004. This is the last issue of the series. And this was a good series. I really, really enjoyed this. It was set in an alternate reality, World War I era in which there were magical creatures. And I don't know how I missed this one. I think because the issues started appearing, it came out pretty regularly at first, but then started, skip a month, skip a couple of months. And I think by the time number 6 finally came out, like way, way, way late, I just missed it somehow. I had a pull list at my local shop, but maybe the shop got shorted or didn't get it. To this day, I have no idea how I missed it. There is a new Aerosmith series coming out from Image Comics. I think it's starting next month. So that's cool. That's something to look forward to. But this book, again, it's a $3 book in the price guides. So it hasn't kept pace with inflation because $2.95 when it came out is now the equivalent of $4.34. I don't think I have seen, no, I did see one for sale. One copy I saw for sale on eBay went for $3.50 in 9.2. But like I said, I'm probably going to find it in a dollar box if I can find it at all, because the print run on this was probably around 10,000 copies, something like that, 10 or 12. So definitely, if you see Aerosmith number 6 out there, and don't confuse it with the new Aerosmith that's going to be coming out here in a month, and number 6 will be out in probably late fall. Or if it runs like the last series, maybe sometime next year. But yeah, I'm looking to complete that original series. What's up next? Oh, yes, Batlash. Batlash. This was a 7-issue series. Bat got an appearance in Showcase and then his own 7-issue series. Number 5 is the only one I'm missing. Came out April 22nd, 1969. Written by Sergio Aragones, if I'm saying that right. And the interesting thing about this issue is that the famous Mexican bandit that Bat fights in this issue is named Sergio Aragones, which I guess is something you could do back before they had credits in the books. This one, 9.4, $60 according to the guide. On eBay, much less. A 9.0 has sold within the last 3 months. Best graded copy that I found, and it was $29.88 that it went for. So I'm going to be looking to see if I can get that around 6.0 for under $10. You think I can do that? I don't see Batlashes that often. Very rarely do they come across my desk for grading, and when they do, they're kind of low grade. But I do want to get that issue because that'll fill in that run for me. All right, this next book, fairly recent book. This came out also during that time period where I I wasn't buying any comic books at all. I did go back and fill this in. But this is the last issue of this series of Brave and the Bold. It ran 35 issues. I've got the first 34. I need this one, both because it fills in the run, but also because, I mean, hey, a team up between the Legion of Substitute Heroes and the Inferior Five. Come on, get out of here. That's comedy gold. But again, another book that hasn't kept pace with inflation. It guides for $3 because the original cover price was $2.99. But that $2.99 in 2010 is the equivalent of $3.81 now. Haven't found any copies for sale on eBay. This is another one that was probably around 10 or 12,000 copies total. So it's going to be hard to find it. It's not really how much it's going to cost me once I find it, but it's just trying to find the damn thing. And let's see, what is next on the list? Oh, Brother Power the Geek #2. This is another oddball thing. I've had the first issue of this for like 35 years, and I just finally decided this year, you know what? I need the other issue. This was a book by Joe Simon. I haven't read that first issue in about 35 years either, but if I remember correctly, it was hippies found an old mannequin draped in rags, and through the power of peace and love, it came to life. I can't remember, but I just know this is one of the most oddball things that DC ever put out, and they canceled it at issue 2, so they had to have canceled it before they even really got the sales data on issue 1, because back then at this time, September 3rd, 1968, when this came out, this had to have been 4 or 5 months before they would get the sales data. So guide value is $40, but this is one that just, the guide doesn't reflect what's actually happening. Kind of the opposite of those earlier books that we looked at where the actual price was much above guide. This one's way low. And it's something you don't often find in very high grade. The best thing on eBay was a 5.0 that went for $7.99. I'm hoping I can get it for less than $10. Around mid-grade, 6.5, less than $10. I would be happy with that. That would make me very happy indeed to finally, after all this time, have that series complete. Now, this next one is probably going to be, if there's anything on this list I don't end up getting this year, it's probably going to be this one. And this is DC Comics Presents number 47, the first appearance of He-Man and the Masters of the Universe in comics. And you He-Man fans out there, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is also the first appearance of the Prince Adam persona anywhere. Like, if I recall correctly, earlier appearances of He-Man didn't mention anything about Prince Adam. But I could be wrong about that, but let me know in the comments below if I am wrong. Came out March 16th, 1982, 60 cents, the equivalent of $1.76 today. And as we noted, the Masters of the Universe. Not why I want it. I'm not a big He-Man fan myself. He-Man, Transformers, G.I. Joe, the real American version of G.I. Joe anyway, all came along when I was into my middle teens. And so I had kind of outgrown those properties a little bit. My toy lines are really the toys of the 70s. And so this really doesn't have any nostalgic value for me. It's just that it's the one issue I need to complete that run of DC Comics Presents. And I had got every issue of DC Comics Presents when it first came out. And then we had a house fire in late August 1980. The series started in 1978. And I lost all the books that I had at that point. And from that point, once I started buying comic books again, because it was another few months, after recovering from the fire, there were more important things to do. But once I started getting comic books again, at that point, I really only bought off the stands those issues of DC Comics Presents that featured a co-starring character along with Superman that I was interested in. So I just passed on this book when it first came out. I've since gone back. I've collected all the books that I had before the fire. I've collected all the other issues that I missed out on. But this one I have passed on up until now just because of the expense. It's a hard call for me. It's just not worth it because it is $150 in 9.4, and the guide is low on this because the price that I saw on eBay for a 9.0 sold for $300. We get this book and it goes straight to CGC if it's in any kind of grade at all. I'm going to try and get it. This is the most I'm willing to pay for any book on this list, $40. If I can get it for 7.0 or better for around $40, I'll jump. Otherwise, probably not going to do it. Not going to do it. Because I can't see paying that much for a book I could have got for 60 cents, But I do want it because it will complete my run of DC Comics Presents. And then, by the way, the other story in here, around this time, DC was running a backup series in DCP, Whatever Happened to, different characters. In this case, it was Sandman's sidekick, Sandy the Golden Boy. And he came away from this with the kind of the sand powers that he had not had previously. He was, disappeared after the Golden Age. Sandman finally came back. Just like, hey, where's Sandy? And there was an issue of Justice League where it revealed that in a late case during the Golden Age, Sandy had been turned into this silicon monster. And this issue, he is saved, returns to his normal form, but he has these sand-based powers that he would later, after the crisis, when everything in DC got rebooted and Jeff Johns started a new JSA series a couple decades after that, he still had sand powers. So kind of they kept a lot of that backstory in place. But anyway, that is that book that I'm looking for. And now we come to Detective Comics number 741. This came out December 15th, 1999. And this was part of the whole No Man's Land, which happened after Gotham suffered a big earthquake. I do want this one, and that is because, well, first let's look at the pricing. About $6 is what the guide says. Closer to $8 is what eBay says, and I'm thinking I can get it for around $4. But the reason I want this issue is because with this one, that will fill in a run for me from Detective Comics 497 in 1980 up until, what is this issue number? I can't see it and I don't have it written down, but it's in 2003. But that'll give me a run, I do know, of 279 issues. So not quite as long as the Action Comics run, but a 23-year span. I'll have every issue of Detective Comics once I get that one issue we just looked at. So that's kind of a big deal for me, and that's why I do want that issue. This was a good series, although I never bought it at the time it came out. I never saw it. That was just kind of the failure of the newsstand distribution system, is that it's not just that you'd get to the stands and there'd only be a couple of copies and somebody got there before you and bought something. Not everything appeared on every newsstand. And I don't remember seeing this on the stands at all when I was a kid. This ran 5 issues and was ultimately killed by the DC implosion. It's one of the books that was below the supposed line that the Warner executives cut in the DC Comics line at the time. Everything above stayed, everything below got canceled, except for Detective Comics. Detective was below, but folks at DC convinced Warner that, hey, that's the title our whole name comes from. Maybe we don't want to cancel it. And so it got merged with Batman Family, which had been above the list. But anyway, this book starred Madame Xanadu, and Gary Conway was a writer, or Jerry Conway, I should say. Gary's how I pronounced it when I was a kid, but it's only within the last year or so I realized I've been pronouncing that my whole life the wrong way. It's actually Jerry Conway, with art by, and this I'll mangle as well, Vicente Alcazar, maybe? I don't know. But over the years, I have purchased these as back issues. This is the one I still need to complete this series. About $14 in 9.4, according to the guide. According to eBay, a little more. An 8.5 went for $19.80. I'm looking to get it in 9 or above for less than $7. We'll see how I do. But again, that will fill in that run, complete that series for me. These next two I'm actually going to do as one. This is a twofer, so there's actually 23 books on my list. And these came out late 2012, 2013. Around this time, DC published a bunch of titles starring the Quality Comics characters that it thought it had purchased. But apparently it didn't actually own the rights. So it quickly put out a slew of miniseries starring new versions of those characters, pretty much just to lock in the copyright and trademark on the character names: Phantom Lady, Dollman, Human Bomb. There was also a series with a new Ray, the Ray, who had no connection whatsoever to the earlier Ray or the Ray Jr., the Ray's son that got a series in the 1990s. They'd already done a different Black Condor, and of course, you can't trademark Uncle Sam. But all of the other characters in the traditional Freedom Fighters, DC went out about this time, put out all new versions of those characters, again, pretty much just to secure trademark, because there was there was a concern, a belief that maybe when they bought Black Hawk and the other things from Quality, maybe they didn't get these books, rather because it took them so long until the mid-70s to do anything with the characters. Maybe it lapsed. Maybe they never actually did buy them. There's some confusion there. But anyway, these particular books, during that 3-year span where I didn't buy any books at all, from about 2009, 10, 11, once I returned to buying, the shop where I used to get my books had gone out of business. So there was another shop kind of out of my way where I would go, here and there. And these two books, the fourth and final issue of each of these series, I just missed. They sold out. They weren't getting many copies of them, obviously, maybe 1 or 2 for the stands. And I kind of lost out. Missed them, been looking for them ever since. And, the print run on these were probably under 10,000 copies. If I remember the sales data I saw at the time. So these are hard to find. They're not worth anything. You just can't find them. So again, they were $2.99 at the time. That's the equivalent of $3.57 today. I'll probably find them in a dollar box if I can find them. I haven't seen any sales for these books on eBay. So again, they're going to be kind of hard to find, but if I get them at $3 or less, I'm going to jump right on them just to complete both of those series because I am a fan of those Quality Comics characters. The Freedom Fighters was one of my favorite titles when I was a kid in the 70s. And so I've got a soft spot for those characters. And even though these are different characters under the same names, I would like to get those. Leave It to Chance number 5. This was a fun series by James Robinson and Paul Smith. It had a very erratic publishing history, though. Kind of like Aerosmith. It was regular at first, but then it kept coming later and later and later. It ran, I think it was like 11 issues from Image Comics, and that was like over maybe 3 years. I think it was 3 years that it took them to get out those 11 issues. And then it was several more years before issue 12 came out, this time from the Homage imprint, brief imprint of DC Comics. And then finally a 13th issue came out a couple years after that, again from Image Books. This was a fun series, and it was kind of a precursor to what we see in a lot of modern books. There are a lot of books out in the last couple of years that star a young female protagonist, and this sort of predicted all of that. It was kind of an early example of that type of thing. It was Leave It to Chance was the young daughter of a magic-based superhero, if I remember. Again, it's been 20 years since I read those books. It came out in 1997. Yeah, I'm looking to fill this one in. This one I missed somehow. Don't know how. Probably because, again, the publishing schedule started to get erratic and just missed it. But anyway, guide value says $3, even though, with inflation, the $2.50 cover price is up to $4.33. I have not seen any sales for this on eBay. I'm going to try and get it for $3 or less, and I'll be quite happy to fill in that run. I've got the rest of them, the other 13 issues. I just need that one. This one, I would like to get all of the books in this series, not this title, but this series. In the mid-'80s, Archie tried to revive the what we call today the Red Circle heroes, the action heroes, the Golden Age characters that it had before Archie came along, and the whole company did a hard pivot. Archie tried to revive those characters several times in the Silver Age when they introduced the Fly and a few other characters, and then this was kind of like the third big revival, and there have been 3 or 4 since then. But this was done in the mid-'80s. And this was all kind of spearheaded by Rich Buckler, who much maligned today. I don't know why, but I thought he was great. I really enjoyed Rich Buckler. The thing about these books, though, again, distribution worked a lot differently in the newsstand era, and I've already sort of referenced it, like, not everything appeared at every stand all the time, but there were lots of different distributors, so not everything appeared at certain stands at all. So back during the 80s, I never saw this in any of the regular newsstands I haunted. I only ever saw these titles in the spinner rack at, and this won't mean anything to you, but Laverdier's Super Drugstore was a drugstore chain up here in Maine. It's gone now, but that's the only place I ever saw these books at the time. I got a few. I've filled in many since then. This series ran about 13 issues, and this is the only one that I need. And I would like to, when I said I'd like to get the whole series, there were probably in this, it started out as Red Circle, and then they changed it to Archie Adventure. But in total, I think probably only about 35, 40 books, maybe less than that. And I've still got about 8 or 9 I need to complete that whole run of that whole kind of genre from Archie at the time. But this is the last issue that I need of this particular titled The Mighty Crusaders. And so what do I expect to pay for it? Well, it lists for $5 in 9.4 in the guides. I saw one sale on eBay, just one over the last 3 months for this lone issue. Been a few sales of different groupings, but for a single issue of this book, an ungraded copy went for $4.65. So it's probably about what I'll end up paying, around $4 or so in 9.0 is what I'm shooting for. And those were fun books. I enjoyed them. A lot of people, again, Rich Buckler, much maligned today. This is the only Marvel book on my list. And Moon Knight was a series that I much enjoyed as a kid. Moon Knight and Micronauts were my kind of big titles at this time, and both pulled a fast one on me. Micronauts around issue 38 and Moon Knight around issue 18. Those were concurrent. Those both at the same time. They went direct sales only, which was a big deal to me at the time because living in central Maine in the early 80s, the nearest comic book store, in fact, at that time, probably the only comic book store in the entire state was like a 2-hour drive away each way. And I didn't yet have my own driver's license. So, trying to talk mom into driving you to the comic book store, a 4-hour round trip plus the hour you would need in the store to go in a shop. That was just a non-starter. So at that point where these two titles, Micronauts and Moon Knight, they went direct sales only, I was SOL, brother. I did not get those. So I've since filled in a lot of the Moon Knight books, but I've got them here and there. I'd get like issue 28, issue 37, issue 19, issue 29. So I look forward to getting this book, the last one I need, and just sitting down and reading the series right through front to end. The whole series was written by Doug Moench. People advise me every time how to pronounce it, and I always forget and get it wrong, just because I always said Moench as a kid. That's how it's stuck in my brain. But once I get this issue, I want to read it right straight through. The early issues, of course, number 1 is going through the roof right now because of the upcoming Moon Knight TV series. The rest of the issues haven't really followed suit. With the Eternals, the first issue took off, and then the rest of them started to get really kind of crazy. They were dollar books for years and started going for like, $20, $25 an issue in mid-grade. And they've since cooled off, like ice cold since the movie came out, and the movie sucked. These books probably they have a chance of holding their value, and they'll go up in value, and they'll at least plateau there if that series is any good, and it seems like it might be. But so far, at least, really only the first issue's taken off. The first issue is like a $50, $60, $70 book now. The rest of them are just starting to eke up, so I'm hoping I can get this one before it gets too out of control. Oh, and I don't know if I said, the early issues were by Bill Sienkiewicz on the art in the period before he got too avant-garde. Once he got over to New Titans, what am I saying? New Mutants. I really didn't like him. His artwork, although, spectacular as artwork, to me, didn't serve the story. But in these issues of Moon Knight that he did from the beginning of the run till I forget how deep into it he got, his artwork's pretty good. It's not too floopy. You can actually follow it. And it's quite good. But anyway, back to the price guide. This is still listing at $6.94. And a 7.5 sold for $6. That was the best graded copy I saw. So I'm hoping to get it for $5. It's towards the end of the run, once Sienkiewicz left. Although this is early art by Kevin Nolan, so that's kind of cool. And the backup story has some early art by Mark Silvestri, so that's also cool. But hopefully I can latch onto this one before the price really starts going out of control. And then next up, Plastic Man. So Plastic Man was a Quality Comics character, and when DC bought a few of the Quality properties when that company went out of business in 1956, it chose not to continue Plastic Man, which seems an odd decision, but superheroes were not a big thing at the time. Plastic Man was in reprints, and Jack Cole was gone, so DC would have had to. The other books that it continued, Black Hawk, GI Combat, Robin Hood Tales, and Heartthrobs. Those were the 4 quality books that it continued. It pretty much just soldiered on with the writing and art teams that had been on those books at quality. Plastic Man, because that book was in reprints, it would have had to have found some writers, found some artists, develop a whole new thing, get it going, and it just chose not to do it, which is kind of funny because it's only 2 months after the last issue of Plastic Man hit stands that the Barry Allen version of The Flash made its debut. So somewhere in the multiverse, there is a world, I am sure, where DC did continue Plastic Man, and Plaz became a founding member of the Justice League. Can you imagine that? That would have been so awesome. They probably would have had Plastic Man instead of the Martian Manhunter. I don't know. But anyway, DC did revive the character in the 60s. And there's some open question about, because Blackhawk, they didn't buy outright. They actually leased the character at first. And I don't know, maybe one of the reasons they didn't continue Plastic Man is, Busy Arnold, the owner of Quality, maybe wanted too much for a lease on Plastic Man. But by the 60s, anyway, it had got hold of the rights. But that series didn't last. It only lasted like about 10 issues. And then in the 70s, DC tried for a second revival. And this again only lasted about 10 issues from issue 11 to issue 20. And this one, number 20, the last one in this series, is the only one that I do not have. And I do need that book. Got some nice Ramona Fraden art in it. And so that'll be a joy and a wonder to behold once it's in my grubby little hands. So I only have 2 of the first run of Plastic Man from issue 1 to 10 from the 60s. But from the 70s, from issue 11 to 20, once I get this issue number 20, I will have the whole thing. So $14 in near mint, according to the guides. Much, much less than that. On eBay, the best copy I saw was an 8.0 that only went for $2.04. So I'm confident I can find somewhere this issue for under $6 in 9.0 or better. And you can see, basically, the more I have to pay, the lower grade I'm willing to accept. Now, this book pisses me off. Shazam number 12. This is the most recent book on the list. This came out in 2020. And what happened is, with the whole COVID kerfuffle, and then DC switching over to new distributors from Diamond to either UCS or Lunar, my shop chose UCS because it was, on our side of the country, and shipping costs would presumably be less. But UCS, which was a division of, Midtown Comics, regular retail store, they just didn't have the infrastructure to handle the influx of new accounts. All these stores that were suddenly needing to sign up with somebody in order to get DC Comics. It took them a while to get us up and running. I say us because the company I work for owns the store where I get my books. And so we ended up missing like 2 or 3 weeks worth of DC books until they finally caught up and got everything set up and got it up right. Because there was a period there where they were saying, we need this information. And the manager of the store was saying, we've already sent you that information. And they were sending back stuff to the wrong email address, and it was just nuts. All that on top of the fact that they just didn't have the infrastructure in place to handle it, even if everything went right. So anyway, the books that I missed probably, 4 or 5 different books, and most of those I've managed to find. There was Jimmy Olsen number 12, and there was an issue of Hawkman, I think it was 25. I've since got those books, but this one I still need, and because the print run was only around 10, 12, 15,000 copies, it's been a hard damn thing to find. I've asked around at different shops and different people who shop at different shops, and can't find this book anywhere. Not going to be an expensive book. I just need to find it. Another reason, too, could be that it's got this Batman appearance in it, and so that might have affected things. They might have sold more of this issue than anticipated, than copies had been ordered. And of course, there was the whole COVID thing, and this coming out late because of that threw things off. So it doesn't seem like many of this particular issue of Shazam anyway made it into the dollar boxes. I think I'm pretty much waiting until a few people decide to unload parts of their collection. It could be years before I ever actually get this book. Guide value is $4. The original price was $2.99, which is $4.28. Shows you how much inflation has gone up here in the last couple of years. But it's not keeping pace with inflation. Haven't seen any copies for sale on eBay. I'm going to try and get it for the original cover price if I can. But yeah, that's a book that I missed because the industry got really stupid. And that series is canceled now, so that is the only issue I need to complete that series. Here's another one. Only issue I need to complete this series. The Spectre series that came out in the 80s. I think this ran 31 issues. I'm missing number 11. A little harder issue to find because it's got a lot of different characters in it, different occult characters. Dead Man, the Gentleman Ghost, the Enchantress, Madame Xanadu that we've already talked about. And of course, it's got this fabulous Zatanna butt shot on the cover. And appropriately enough, the title of this story is Housewarming Party by Doug Munch again, Munch. And the art, a favorite of mine, not real popular with fandom as a whole, but I really like Gray Morrow. So this issue is worth it to me just for that alone, but also because it is the last issue of that series I need. $3, right about the inflation price from the original $1.25 cover price. I have not seen any of these on eBay sell within the last 3 months, so I'm going to try and get it for at or under $3 in 9.0 or above. If I can find a decent copy in a dollar box somewhere, or if you find a copy and want to reach out to me, that would be fantastic. That's really the only kind of independent book on the list. STARSLAYER number 34 came out in the mid-'80s, July 28th, 1985, in fact. John Ostrander was the writer of this at this time, and this is actually the last issue of this series. It started out at Pacific Comics. Pacific, if you don't know, was a distributor that started dabbling in publishing its own comic books, and a lot of famous properties started out at Pacific. Gru the Wanderer, I think The Rocketeer as well, and I think Jack Kirby's last original character, Captain Victory. I think that was his last kind of all-original character. I mean, there were some things that came out later from Topps, Captain Glory and stuff like that, but I think those had been produced earlier. But Captain Victory was one of Kirby's last big titles, and that came out, well, I say big titles, only lasted 13 issues, but that came out from Pacific. But the first 6 issues, this was, again, it's a space pirate kind of yarn, and it was Mike Grell's baby. He did the cover story and art up until I forget exactly what point, because this is another one I have pieced together over the years. I was a fan at the time when it came out. Didn't get every issue from Pacific. I think I initially only bought new, a couple of those first 6, because you just didn't see it everywhere, and it was a hard job to find a comic book store. This only came out at comic book stores, and when I could finally get to one, things had sold out. Then it's with issue 7, it switched over to First Comics, became a little more regular. Comic stores opened a little closer to where I lived, and I was able to keep with the title for a while. I've since filled in all the issues that I missed, except this last one, number 34, the last one in the series. So I do want that, and I shouldn't have to pay much for it. It books for about $3 in near mint. I have not seen any copies for sale on eBay, so I'm looking to get that again, $3. Like I said at the beginning, a lot of my want list items are not big money books. They're just things I want for the reading and for the completing. And finally, we come down to the last book on this list, the 22, or with the cheat, 23 books that I want to add to my collection in 2022. And this is V number 11. This is based on the TV series. You may be familiar. There was a revival of this series in the last few years, basically about invading aliens. And I remember watching the first miniseries. I think it was a 2-episode miniseries when it first came out. And I got to tell you, when that hot-looking female leader of the aliens tilted back her head and dropped in a live mouse into her mouth and started going, nom, 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 I about freaked the fuck out. It was, what was I, 12 or 13 at the time? So I think there was a 2-episode miniseries. It was followed up by a 3-episode miniseries, and then it got a regular ongoing series. This series from DC Comics came out about the same time as that regular series and lasted about a year after that went off the air. I think that only lasted 1 season, and this series continued on. Now it says final issue up there at the top. Did I get the wrong one? Did I grab the wrong one? What I'm missing is number 11, and I think this series went 18 issues. Yeah, that is the one I need, by Cary Bates, Carmine Infantino, and Tony DeZuniga. And $4 in near mint. I have not seen any sales of this issue on eBay in the past 3 months, so I should be able to pull this out of a dollar box somewhere. And by golly, that is it. Those are the books that are on my want list, the things that I want to add to my personal collection. So yeah, if you see any of those anywhere, let me know. Maybe we can do a deal like I said. But also in the comments below, let me know what's on your want list. What books are you looking to add to your collection and why? Is it to complete runs? Is it for some, sentimental or nostalgic value? Is it simply for monetary value? And I disparaged that quite a bit in this video, but there's nothing wrong with that. If that's, what gives you a kick out of collecting comic books, and by all means, if you're in it for the dollar, then good on you. You do what gives you pleasure. And if that's if buying comic books hermetically sealed in a big old plastic case, so you can't even read the damn thing. If that's what gives you a chub, then hey, that's fine with me. But yeah. That's it. Those are the books that I'm looking for this year. Maybe I'll do an update around December, and I'll let you know how I did. And then, I don't know. Will we do 23 for 23? I don't know. I don't think we can. Well, we did 23 for 22, but I don't know if we can keep, however long I live, 50 for 50. I don't know. All right. That's it. That's the list. Thanks for watching this long. Hope you had a good time. I had fun anyway. So until the next time, goodbye, good luck, and please be good to each other.